In chapter 3, we talked about claims, frequency, association, and causal claims. And we talked about the 4 kinds of validities. We talked about construct, statistical, internal, and external validity. And we said that internal validity tends not to be emphasized when we're looking at association claims and frequency or frequency claims. And we'll talk about some of that here and why that might be the case. So in a very large study of Medicare beneficiaries, pet owners had slower cognitive decline over 6 years than their peers who did not care for a pet. And the researchers found this for overall health, mood, quality of life. Now, this is interesting, right? Some of you are probably right now thinking, maybe I should get my grandma a dog in order to keep her healthy. The problem is this is a correlational study. And while there is some suggestion that owning a pet can protect against long-term or against cognitive decline, it doesn't offer it doesn't allow us to conclude that there is a cause and effect relationship. So let's talk about why. There may be some other things going on here, and those other things are things that we need to be thinking about. So as you're reading this, you should be generating other explanations of what's happening here and what those things mean. So our 3 causal criteria, covariance, temporal precedence, which came first, and internal validity, which maybe there's a third variable that explains this relationship. So we see this link. So we have covariance. The problem is we don't know about temporal precedence. These were not people who were given dogs. They were long-term dog owners or pet owners. And so we can't say that owning a pet caused the changes in health. Maybe it was the other way around, right? Maybe healthy people own dogs because they're healthy enough to be able to keep one. And finally, maybe there's another explanation for what's going on. So perhaps something about the one's health. Maybe there's something about being, involved with other people that actually explains this relationship. So part of what we're talking about here is, do these variables make sense? Do we have a spurious correlation? In this case, when we're looking at height in centimeters and hair length for both men and women, it looks initially like there is a strong negative correlation. That as people get taller, their hair gets shorter. The problem is that we have 2 different groups here, each of which has a 0 correlation. But across those 2 groups, it makes it look like there is a positive correlation. On the other hand, in this particular study, we're looking at height and weight, height in centimeters, weight in kilograms. If we are looking at the overall data, it's certainly strong positive correlation. And that's true for both men and for women. Okay. So let's look at self-reported life satisfaction relative to a butter supply per capita. And you see here that there is a strong positive correlation between butter consumption or butter supply and life satisfaction. So each dot represents a country in this case. And we have a positive correlation. It sort of tends upward here. And if we were to flip the X and Y variables or axes, we'd still have that positive correlation, right? And it would look much like this, would look exactly like this with different axes. Now, the author here says, yet as the map shows, an abundance of butter does make people happy. That's our clear causal claim. But it also could be a case of correlation. In that case, something else influences both life satisfaction and the availability of butter to go up and down. And, one of the things that you might be thinking about, so the writer starts with a causal claim and then says, we need to be cautious here. So he's talking about third variables here. And perhaps what we're looking at are differences in wealth. That might explain this variation here. But there may be other kinds of things that are shifting. And that's part of what you want to be thinking about. What is happening here? And I'm going to stop here and we'll talk about external validity in the next video. Take care.